Hello, everybody. This presentation is just going to cover the first part of the PowerPoint on steps in conducting a research review. We'll do the second part later when you're working on the method or the lit review assignment. So I just wanted to give you enough for this week on how to complete the article analysis assignment. So for the first article analysis assignment, you identify at least 5 articles related to your research topic, and you're going to complete the article analysis form for each article. In a couple of weeks later, the rest of the article analysis assignment is due. You're going to complete the article analysis form for 5 additional articles, plus you're going to complete a summary table. What I suggest all of you do is, as you complete the article analysis for this first 5 set of articles, go ahead and set up your table and start transferring information from your articles to that table. I also strongly suggest you go ahead and keep working on the articles and don't wait until just before the other 5 articles in the summary table are due to complete it. Because once you complete the summary table, you'll be ready to start writing your review of the literature. In this course, we've got a lot of writing to do. The It's much better if you can stay ahead of things. So um, don't just stop at 5 articles if you can. I mean, again, for I think they're due on June 5th, but go ahead and keep working on additional articles. If you haven't done so, stop right now and watch the tutorial on doing searches on the library. That's a separate presentation that's recorded in this module, and it gives you some background in how to do a good search using the tools that are available to you. It surprises me how many folks get pretty far into their graduate programs and don't realize the resources that are available through the NIU library that you're paying for. So you have access to tons of articles. So use it. So when we start looking for a topic of research, again, we start with something that's interesting to us, something that we believe is going to address an important problem or concern, or something that's going to further the knowledge of the field. So at this point, you should have, excuse me, a general topic or an area. Um, Write a topic statement. That's just a phrase that says what your topic is. For example, something like, I'm interested in studying the effectiveness and utility of acceptance and commitment therapy with direct care staff. That is something I'm interested in. I'm interested in looking at acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, and how we can teach people who work directly with students with significant challenging behaviors to handle the stress and anxiety associated with those roles better. So if anybody's interested in collaborating on that research, talk to me. But that's an area I'm interested in, so that's what my summary statement would sound like. Then you identify the relevant databases. Well, because I always work in education and behavior analysis, I only use a couple of databases and they pretty much do everything I need. I really like ERIC First Search. Don't ask me what ERIC stands for, I used to know. But there's a couple of versions of ERIC. The one I use is First Search. So when you get into the library system, and I think on the main page you just hit Find Articles, and then I usually do Find Articles by subject matter. When I click on that, then I choose special education. If you choose psychology, you'll get pretty much the same, but I just choose special education. The first one that comes up is ERIC First Search. PsycInfo is one that I also use. They're both pretty good. ERIC First Search is my favorite one. I think primarily just because I'm used to it. Um, for your search, you need several descriptors. So for mine, I would enter acceptance and commitment therapy, uh, workplace stress, um, autism spectrum disorder, emotional behavioral disorders, things like that. So I might start with just workplace stress and challenging behavior, those two. and then I do a search and I see how many hits I get. I probably would get a ton of stuff with that. So I'm going to start to narrow things down. You can select things like peer-reviewed journals only. I'm going to suggest you do that. Otherwise, you might get a lot of other stuff that you don't want to bother with right now, like magazine articles and things like that. You're only going to look at articles in peer-reviewed journals. You can also sort your results by date. I suggest you do that so that the most recent things are first. Now, I know it says to focus on research in the last 10 years. There are some situations when you might want to go beyond that. If there's an article that's referenced a whole lot, it might be an important article in the field. For example, in behavior analysis, there are some of the articles that were written when this field was just beginning in 1968, and then in the 1970s there were some seminal articles on generalization written. So I always have students read those. So there may be a benchmark article that may be 25 years old, but that may be one that you want to include. Most of your articles are going to be fairly recent, like within the last 5 years if possible, and certainly within the last 10 years. Sometimes after you do an initial search, you'll find that you need to redefine your topic. For example, if I look at workplace stress and acceptance and commitment therapy, I might find almost nothing. I think I'm going to find something, but there's probably not a ton of research. So I might drop the acceptance and commitment therapy and I might look at anxiety interventions and workplace stress for and challenging behavior as my descriptors. That'll probably give me a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, sorry. Um, One of the things you want to look for is if you read several articles and you see that some studies are referenced repeatedly by other people, those are probably important articles, and you definitely want to read those and probably include them, even if they're older, because those are probably landmark studies that you want to be familiar with. So you'll probably get hits on a bunch of articles. Um, Once you do that, select the articles. I typically will read through the abstracts. The abstract is a summary at the beginning of the article. You can pinpoint the ones that you think are most relevant to your topic and start with those. So for this assignment, you're going to start with five and then you're going to add five more. If I were you, I would just keep going and I would get 10. Um, and just start working on writing up those article analysis sheets. The article analysis sheet I gave you is the one I use personally, and I find it extremely valuable for me to keep track of what I read in so many different studies. I mean, I read so many research papers, I can't really keep track anymore unless I summarize it. Um, in the article, you're going to be looking at different categories, saying the research design that was used. I want you to focus initially, if possible, on studies that use single case research methodology. Now, sometimes you may be in an area where a lot of the research involves group designs, and for this first group of five articles, it's okay if one of them is a group design, but I'd really prefer that you read and summarize single case research because that's the focus of this course, and I want you to learn how to do single case research. Um, Experimental studies again are the articles I want you to focus on. Of course, review articles that I mentioned before, they're helpful in getting an overview of the field, but I don't want you to include review articles in this group of five articles. Another type of paper you may see is something called a theoretical paper or a commentary or position paper. These are not research reports and they're really not review articles. An example of that would be a couple of years ago, Sagai and some other folks published a theoret or a commentary paper on restraint and seclusion in schools. And they cited some research, but it was more just stating a position and talking about how it was supported by the research and how it was, this is the position that is most ethical. Um, Theoretical papers, the same thing. They can cite research, but they're not really a systematic review. These again are all good papers to read to get a feel for where a field is but they're not what I want you to include in this group of articles. The first category is research or experimental reports. That's what I want you to focus on. As I mentioned already, read, if you could find a review article, read one or two of those first. That gives you a good idea of where the research is. Um, I've already said this too. Focus on articles that are most relevant to the topic. That's a little redundant. Sorry for that. So this is a copy of the article analysis form. So you're transferring information here. What I recommend you do, especially for the conclusion section and definitely for the results section, don't find passages in the article and copy them onto this form. You're going to write way too much, first of all. And if you want the exact wording, you can go back to the article. Summarize it and put it in your own words, especially the conclusion part. I mean, what were the real conclusions? So the way I do this is I'll read the article and then I'll set it aside and then I'll just summarize to myself in my own words in a way that I believe will help me remember what I think is most relevant about that article. Um, if you're going to just copy stuff, then you would just highlight on the article and not bother with this. But by transferring onto this form, this critical information, it makes it really easy to do the next step, which is putting it in a summary table. I also use the back of the form to write notes or jot down anything that I think might be important. Sometimes I'll use quotations and I'll put the reference for the quotation in there so that I have it available. Be very cautious. Don't use too many quotations when you write your introduction later. You want most of this to be in your own words. If I think there are any particular strengths or weaknesses in the article beyond even what the author saw, I'll write those down too. I'll just, anything I think that might be important and how this study relates to other studies, I might put some notes about that as well. So the more notes you make that are going to be helpful to yourself, the more thankful you're going to be that you did it later. And then I said the next part is take the information once you've done all of the article summary sheets. For part two of this assignment that's due a little later, you're going to do a summary table. Now, summary table, a starting place would be use the categories that are on the article analysis form. I've given you a sample summary table on the assignment itself. You can look at those categories and you can certainly just use that. But you may find that you need some different categories for your particular topic. It depends on what you're interested in. If you look at a couple of review articles almost always have summary tables in them that show some characteristics of the different studies that are being reviewed. So feel free to change the categories on that summary table. You're not locked into the ones I provide you. Um, this again is, I think I may have even changed the version you have just a little bit, but this is what I will usually start with. And then I may change it depending on the certain situation and issues with the research. But again, you're certainly fine to use this. So you'll fill this in for each of your 10 articles. These are a couple of examples from research review articles. So these are summary tables, but they meet specific requirements of that review. So this particular article was about more with generalization. So that was the focus of the summary table. And here's another just to show how they used different issues. I think this looked at follow-up studies, whether it was 10 weeks or 8 weeks or something of that nature. So um, these are a couple examples. You can find hundreds of these in the articles. Uh, I'm going to stop there because the next slides deal with actually writing the lit review, and I'm going to focus on that in another class a little later on. You're certainly welcome. I think in the remaining of chapter 3, where this information is found, you can read it. And I would suggest you even start outlining a possible lit review once you get your table completed. But I'll I'll go through those slides and do another presentation at another point in time. Good luck with your article analysis assignments. Just to review, summarize, the first assignment that's due will be a PDF copy of 5 articles with an article analysis sheet completed for each article. Later on June 19th, the rest of the article analysis assignment is due. That will be 5 additional articles with an article analysis sheet for each one, plus a completed summary table. So in the end, you're going to have 10 articles. I'm going to see a PDF of 10 articles. I want the actual article, and 10 article analysis sheets, and a summary table that includes information for all 10 articles. And you're going to do that in 2 parts for a total of 50 points. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions, and good luck with this, and we'll pick the rest of this up later.